everybody, and welcome to Philosophy Today, your weekly podcast that connects philosophers and their ideas with contemporary themes. I'm your host, Lydia Jach, and today's podcast will be all about Kant and Covid. In the last episode, we talked about rationalism versus empiricism, and this theme will be picked up in today's discussion as well, since we're talking about a philosopher who bridged these two approaches of knowledge attainment. I've got three very special conversation partners tuning in with me for this episode. They're called Aaron, Mai, and Alina, and they are three fellow students of mine who studied Kant and his philosophy and science as part of a course for our bachelor's in communication science. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. We're so happy to be here today.
So we're talking about a real-world problem today, meaning it literally concerned the whole globe, the COVID-19 pandemic. In the Philosophy of Science and Methodology course, we studied Immanuel Kant and his philosophy of science. Aaron, would you like to tell me a little bit about Kant, his life and values maybe?
Yeah, sure. So Immanuel Kant was a German philosopher during the Enlightenment era of the late 18th century. He was born in 1724 in Königsberg, East Prussia, which is now Kaliningrad in Russia. He studied at Königsberg University and went on to be a professor there until his death in 1804. Immanuel Kant is known for bridging the debate between rationalists and empiricists because he combined reason and senses as the ultimate sources of knowledge. Kant had a modest upbringing, with his father being a simple saddle maker. Both of his parents were deeply religious and very strict. Kant, however, did not have any religious beliefs, but he early on recognized the potential of religion to act as a moral compass. Kant saw great importance in ethical behavior, which can be seen in his formulation of the categorical imperative.
Thanks so much, Aaron, for all of this information. But now that we know something about Kant in general, I'm wondering, how would you draw a connection between this philosopher's standpoint, whose working took place in the 18th century, and the pandemic the world is facing right now, because that's happening in the 21st century?
What Aaron just said reminded me of Kant's categorical imperative that I came across the other day. The categorical imperative states, act only according to that maxim by which you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law.
I think the example of panic buying ties in brilliantly with the categorical imperative, as the voice of our own rational self tells us to follow the rules for a greater good.
Yes, Lydia, I agree. We've all debated with our rational self with corona regulations. But this makes me think about the idea of what rationality really is in the bigger picture of our current pandemic. From what I can remember in the presentation you held in class about Kant, you mentioned his idea about causality and how to really create rationality within our community, we need to find harmony between reason and observation. As we learned in the first week of class, empiricists state that sensual experience is the ultimate way of understanding concepts and knowledge, but Kant argues in favor of the combination with rationalism. We should also think about reason. That way, we could create a common understanding and a systematic knowledge on current real-world problems that we face through unifying people's experiences and reflecting power into a whole.
As the example suggests, observation can be beneficial to gain knowledge. But if knowledge is also possible from within our head, as Kant argues, how can we gain concrete knowledge if it's all seemingly invented by the mind?
Well, the mind does play a big role, but Kant and other philosophers like Hume argue it are our senses that give us the initial impressions of the world. Here it is important to note that Kant believed there to be two worlds, the nominal world and the phenomenal world. The nominal world is the world of objects themselves, which cannot be seen, however. The phenomenal world is the world as it appears to us, meaning as we perceive it with our senses.
The journey we took today portrayed again what this crisis presented us with: uncertain times. Kant called upon us to act morally in the 18th century, and modern leaders globally do so too. I wish you all a beautiful day and hope to have you back for next week's podcast, which will be all about Wittgenstein and his idea of language games within contemporary themes. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.